Hello everyone, welcome back to English Learning Every Day. I'm David.
And I'm Emma. We're so glad you've joined us for another Advanced English podcast. If you're preparing for the TOEFL, IELTS, or simply want to improve your academic English, you're in the right place.
Today, we're going to have a conversation about something that affects everyone making smart decisions. Whether you're choosing a career, planning your education, or managing your finances, the choices you make today can influence your future for many years.
That's true. And along the way, we'll naturally use 10 advanced English words that are very common in academic English. So, just relax and enjoy the conversation.
Emma, let me ask you something. Have you always been an ambitious person?
That's an interesting question. I think I've always been ambitious, but my definition of ambition has changed over time.
Really? How so?
Well, when I was younger, being ambitious meant earning a lot of money or having an impressive job title. But now I think ambition is much deeper than that. It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
I like that definition. Unfortunately, some people think an ambitious person is selfish or obsessed with success.
Exactly, and that's a misunderstanding. Being ambitious doesn't mean stepping on other people. It simply means having meaningful goals and working consistently to achieve them.
I remember one of my professors saying, "If your goals don't challenge you, they won't change you."
That's a wonderful quote. Ambitious people usually accept challenges because they know that's where growth happens.
But here's something I've noticed. Many ambitious people also experience disappointment because they expect everything to happen quickly.
That's true. Ambition needs patience. Imagine planting a tree. You can't expect it to become tall in 1 week.
Exactly. Success grows little by little.
Speaking of success, one thing every successful organization must do is allocate its resources wisely.
Absolutely. Allocation is one of the biggest responsibilities of leaders.
Think about a university. Every year, the administration has to allocate money for research, salaries, technology, scholarships, and building maintenance.
And if they don't allocate their budget carefully, some departments may suffer, while others receive more than they actually need.
That's right. The same idea applies to our personal lives.
How do you mean?
Well, we all have limited resources.
Money?
Money is one resource, but time, energy, and attention are also resources. Every day we decide how to allocate them.
That's an excellent point. Many people complain they don't have enough time, but often the real problem isn't time itself, it's how they allocate it.
Exactly. If someone spends 4 hours scrolling through social media every evening, they're allocating their time in a way that probably doesn't help them achieve their goals.
On the other hand, someone who allocates even 1 hour each day to learning English will probably see remarkable improvement after a year.
That's the power of consistent investment.
You know, speaking of planning, companies collect enormous amounts of information before making important decisions.
Yes, and they rarely look at individual cases. Instead, they analyze aggregate data.
Some of our listeners might wonder what aggregate data actually means.
Good point. Aggregate data is information that's collected from many people or many sources, and then combined to show general trends.
For example, if a hospital wants to understand public health, it doesn't study just one patient.
Exactly. It studies thousands of patients. Then researchers combine all the information into aggregate statistics.
Governments do the same thing. They collect aggregate data about employment, education, transportation, healthcare, and population growth.
That's because one person's experience doesn't always represent society as a whole.
But sometimes the numbers reveal something unexpected.
You're talking about an anomaly, aren't you?
Exactly. Last month I was reading about climate research. Scientists expected temperatures to follow a certain pattern, but 1 year's measurements were completely different.
That unusual result would be considered an anomaly.
Right. An anomaly is something that doesn't fit the normal pattern.
We see anomalies everywhere. Imagine a student who usually scores 95% on every exam, but suddenly receives 40%. That's an anomaly.
Or imagine a city where it usually rains in winter, but 1 year it snows in the middle of summer. That would certainly be an anomaly.
Scientists actually become very interested when they discover anomalies. You know what else is interesting? When people encounter something unusual, they often become emotional.
Especially if they disagree with each other.
Unfortunately, yes. Some people immediately become aggressive.
That's one thing I wish society could improve. Being aggressive rarely solves problems.
I completely agree. There's a huge difference between being confident and being aggressive.
Exactly. A confident person explains ideas calmly. An aggressive person often raises their voice, interrupts others, or refuses to listen.
Social media has made this problem even more visible. Instead of discussing ideas respectfully, many people become aggressive the moment someone disagrees with them.
That's unfortunate because real learning happens through respectful discussion. Have you ever been in a situation where someone explained something, but you had no idea what they actually meant?
More times than I can count. Sometimes people think they're being clear, but their message is actually ambiguous.
That's one of my favorite vocabulary words because it appears everywhere in exams, legal documents, business meetings, and even everyday conversations.
For our listeners, an ambiguous statement is one that can be understood in more than one way.
Imagine your manager tells you, "Finish the report soon."
Soon could mean today, tomorrow, or even next week. The instruction is ambiguous because it isn't specific.
Here's another example. If someone says, "I'll meet you by the bank," what does that mean?
That's a perfect example. Do they mean the bank where people keep money or the bank of a river? Without more context, it's impossible to know.
Speaking of solving problems, have you noticed that successful people always seem to have an alternative plan?
Yes, they never depend on only one solution.
I remember applying for a scholarship a few years ago. I really wanted it, but I also applied to several universities just in case.
So you had an alternative plan. Many people become discouraged because they only imagine one path towards success.
But life rarely follows our original plan.
Exactly. Suppose someone dreams of becoming a pilot, but later discovers a medical condition that prevents them from flying.
That would be disappointing.
Of course. But maybe they become an aerospace engineer, an aviation manager, or an aircraft designer instead. Those are excellent alternatives.
People often think rules never change.
But that's definitely not true. Many rules, policies, and even national constitutions are amended over time.
To amend something means to change it, improve it, or correct it.
Governments amend laws when society changes. Universities amend academic policies. Companies amend contracts. Even authors amend their books before publishing new editions.
I've amended plenty of essays.
Me too. In fact, I don't think I've ever written a perfect first draft.
Neither have I. Good writing usually requires several amendments.
That's true. Many students believe professional writers create perfect work immediately, but experienced writers spend hours reviewing, editing, and amending their work.
Speaking of planning, I recently attended my company's annual meeting.
Oh, really? How was it?
It was actually very interesting. The managers reviewed everything that had happened during the previous year. They discussed profits, challenges, future projects, and company goals.
Annual meetings are important because they help organizations evaluate their progress.
Having annual goals can also be very motivating.
I agree. At the beginning of every year, I write down several personal goals. Some are related to health, some involve reading more books, others focus on improving my professional skills.
Do you usually achieve them?
Not all of them, but writing annual goals helps me stay focused. Without goals, it's easy to waste time.
You know, something I've been thinking about lately is how people disagree.
That's an interesting topic. I think disagreement itself isn't the problem. The real problem is how people handle it.
Some people believe they have to antagonize anyone who has a different opinion.
That's unfortunate. To antagonize someone means to make them angry, hostile, or upset, often through words or actions.
Imagine two coworkers discussing a project. They disagree about the best strategy. One of them calmly explains their opinion. The other starts insulting people. Who is more likely to solve the problem?
Obviously, the calm person. Antagonizing people rarely changes their minds. In fact, it usually makes communication even more difficult.
Looking back at today's conversation, I noticed that all these vocabulary words are connected.
They really are. Ambitious people often prepare alternative plans. Good leaders allocate resources wisely. Researchers analyze aggregate data. Scientists investigate anomalies. Professional writers amend their work. Organizations hold annual reviews. Clear communicators avoid ambiguous language. And emotionally intelligent people avoid antagonizing others, even during disagreements.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that success depends on one big decision.
I couldn't agree more. Success is usually the result of hundreds of small decisions.
Imagine two university students. Both are equally intelligent. Both dream of becoming successful professionals. At first, they seem almost identical.
But then, their daily choices begin to separate them.
One student allocates an hour every evening to reading, learning new skills, and improving their English. The other spends that same hour watching random videos online.
1 year later, those daily choices have produced completely different results. That's the amazing thing about habits. You rarely notice the difference after 1 day, but after 1 year, the difference becomes enormous.
That's why I always tell my younger brother that time is like money. If you invest it wisely, it grows. If you waste it, you never get it back. I've noticed that many English learners become discouraged because they compare themselves with others.
That's very common. Someone watches a fluent speaker on YouTube and thinks, "I'll never speak like that."
But what they don't see are the years of practice behind that fluency.
Every advanced speaker was once a beginner. Nobody starts by speaking perfect English.
Another thing I've learned is that making mistakes isn't something to fear.
Absolutely. In fact, mistakes are often our greatest teachers.
Think about scientists. When they discover an anomaly, they don't immediately assume something has gone wrong. Instead, they become curious.
Exactly. Sometimes an unexpected result leads to an incredible discovery. If researchers ignored every anomaly, many scientific breakthroughs would never happen.
I think language learners should have the same attitude. Instead of being embarrassed by mistakes, they should become curious. Why did I make that mistake? What can I learn from it?
That's a wonderful mindset. Growth begins with curiosity.
Earlier, we talked about ambiguous communication. I think that's another important lesson for English learners.
Definitely. Many students know advanced vocabulary, but they don't always communicate clearly.
I've seen that happen. Someone tries to sound sophisticated by using long, complicated sentences. Instead, the message becomes confusing.
Exactly. Good communication isn't about sounding complicated. It's about making your ideas easy to understand.
That's true whether you're giving a presentation, writing an email, or speaking in an interview.
Clear communication creates confidence. Ambiguous communication creates misunderstanding.
Let's imagine something. Suppose you're managing a company with 100 employees. How would you decide where to spend the company's budget?
I certainly wouldn't guess. I'd examine aggregate data first. I'd study employee performance, customer satisfaction, sales reports, and financial information before making any decisions.
Exactly. Successful leaders rarely rely only on emotions. They rely on evidence.
Of course, experience is valuable, but data helps reduce unnecessary risk.
Speaking of leadership, good leaders also know when to amend their decisions.
That's true. Some people think changing your mind is a sign of weakness. I think it's often a sign of wisdom.
I agree completely. If new evidence appears, refusing to change simply because you're stubborn doesn't make sense.
Imagine a company introducing a new policy. After 6 months, employees explain that it isn't working. A wise manager listens, evaluates the situation, and amends the policy. There's another lesson that I think is especially important. Don't become aggressive when someone disagrees with you.
That's excellent advice. In today's world, people often confuse confidence with aggression.
But they're completely different. A confident person can disagree respectfully. An aggressive person tries to dominate the conversation.
I've noticed that the best teachers rarely raise their voices. The best leaders usually remain calm under pressure.
And that connects perfectly with our last vocabulary word. Never antagonize people unnecessarily.
Exactly. You don't build strong relationships by making people angry. You build relationships through respect, empathy, and understanding.
That doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations.
Not at all. Sometimes difficult conversations are necessary. But there's a huge difference between solving a problem and antagonizing someone. Before we finish today's episode, I'd like to ask you one final question. If you could give one piece of advice to every English learner listening today, what would it be?
That's easy. Be ambitious, but also be patient. Allocate your time wisely. Don't worry if your progress seems slow. Don't fear mistakes. Don't become discouraged by anomalies. Avoid aggressive attitudes. Communicate clearly instead of being ambiguous. Always have an alternative plan when life surprises you. Be willing to amend your methods if they aren't working. Review your progress every year by setting annual goals. And most importantly, never antagonize people while learning from them. Respect opens doors that anger never will.
That's probably one of the best summaries we've ever given. For me, I'd simply say this. Learning English isn't only about vocabulary or grammar. It's about becoming a better communicator, a better thinker, and a more confident person. Every book you read, every podcast you listen to, every conversation you have, and every mistake you learn from brings you one step closer to your goals.
Exactly. Language is more than words. It's a bridge between people, cultures, and opportunities. The more you learn, the more doors begin to open.
Well, Emma, this has been another wonderful conversation.
It certainly has. I hope our listeners not only remember these vocabulary words, but also apply their meanings in everyday life.
To everyone listening around the world, thank you for spending your time with us.
Keep challenging yourself. Keep reading, keep listening, keep speaking, and never stop learning.
Because every day you improve your English.
You're investing in your future.
We'll see you in the next episode of English Learning Every Day, Advanced English Podcast.
Until then, take care, stay curious, and happy learning.
Goodbye, everyone.